During this coronavirus pandemic, musicians have had to get really inventive in order to keep going and to sort of keep the musical cogs turning. But what if you've just got an iOS device and you want to make videos online and you want to sort of do multi-angle camera stuff? Well, you can, because you've got LumaFusion, which is a fantastic application for iPad. And of course, you can do audio mixing on GarageBand. If you buy Final Touch, which is a mastering program, which is only £8, you can really lift your recordings up to the sort of same level as the advert that comes before your YouTube video. Now, I'm going to show you how to do all this. I've just got iOS devices, but I do have this as well, which is the Zoom IQ6 mic. You can see there's a cable coming off it. Well, yeah, it's a lightning extender cable, which means that I can video from a distance, but I can still have the sound nice and direct because I'm right next to the mic. So here goes. So here I am in my recording studio, my makeshift setup. I've got my phone here, which is doing the video, and I've got the mic, which is closer to me. You can see that lead that I talked about in the intro. It just extends the audio, so that means it can be closer to me than the video is. So I'm going to record a backing track first, because I need to have something to record to. This is just a cappella. Of course, if you've got a piano part or something, it's easy enough to record something over the top of it. So I've got an old iPhone SE here, which I'm just going to use with the voice memos. I'm just going to record a track and then put my AirPods in order to record against that. So luckily for me, I've got perfect pitch, which means that I can sing all the notes on that page with no external reference. But that's not really the point. The point is to get a rhythmic track on here so that everything can be absolutely synchronized. So here we go. I'm going to do 2-bar counting as well, because it means that it's much easier to latch on to the tempo that you're going to be recording at. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Mixing videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS. So there we go. Just clapping a nice sort of just eighth notes with the quarter notes just emphasized. Da, 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 da. I mean, if it was extra slow, ba, 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 you could do 16ths just to keep everything absolutely in time. Now, I actually sang the second to bottom part that I've written here. I've got my music here, all the parts here, and it's just that phrase. So I'm going to record a 4-part a cappella version of that. So now I've put my AirPods in, I can now listen back to my recording. Let's have a listen to that, just check that works. So that's now in my AirPods. Okay, that's fine. So I've got that as a part that I can sing to now. I'm going to do the bass part first. So looking at my camera now, I'm going to hold the light up here. Because I've left a little gap at the beginning, it means that I've got time to set myself up after I press go on the video. I'm also going to announce each part, because when you're searching for videos in your photo library, it becomes a bit of a chore if they're not labelled. Lowest part. Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS. I actually got the word wrong. I said mixing videos with multi-angles. I put making on that. I think I'll go for making because it makes more sense on the second part. So I've got to try and ignore my own backing track. Now I also put that click. I put that at the beginning of the second bar of counting because that might help with linking everything up in LumaFusion. I can just look for that click, put them all together, and the whole thing should then work. But it's maybe easier to actually just sync it with the video because it's such a short thing. So here's, let's press go on the camera here. Here is the second part up. Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS. Okay, so that's that part. So and here's the next part up. So second from top part. Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS. Okay, so that's that part. And here's the top part. Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS. What's that going to sound like when it's all put together? Oh, don't know. Okay, so I've got my 4 videos there. I'm going to airdrop them to my iPad. Now, of course, you could video with your iPad, which means that you obviously cut out that stage of having to airdrop things. But I just found the phone a little bit easier to mount on that stand there. An iPad, I don't have a mount for it. So, but it doesn't matter. You can just Bluetooth them all to the iPad for subsequent mixing. So the next stage is doing all that and seeing what I've got. Here I am then with my iPad, and all of the films that I've just made are on this. Now I've got LumaFusion open here on the iPad, and I'm actually going to just select a new file, go to my project and call it, I don't know, 4-part, something like that. Just a name to work with for now. Setting to 60 frames per second, which is what I videoed in. Sometimes it'll auto detect that, that's fine. Now if I just go up here to Photos, if I look in Videos, you can see the 4 parts that I recorded there, 880, 7808. Of course, it doesn't tell you what they are. They're going to be labelled because I said something on the video there. So if I just drag one down here, there we go, I'm just going to go back to here, and just to grab the other parts going in here. The light is a bit weird on this phone at the moment because I'm actually videoing the screen of the iPad, but hopefully you'll be able to see all the processes. Now, if I just look at the main part here, you can see that there are telltale waveforms which tell me where all the parts are, and various bizarre facial expressions from the iPad there, from the videos. Now you can see that there are clicks here. Next to my finger there are some clicks, and those are the clicks that I put in before the videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shorten this one and this one, take away those bits at the front which were just silence essentially. I'm going to just open up the video here and actually drag this click with reference to the other 2, and then I'm going to do the same with this one as well. I have to do it in 2 stages. There we go, see how we are with that. Just a bit more and a bit more. Now this hopefully will result in the 4 parts that I'm singing being completely synchronized because I had the same backing track every time.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Okay, a bit warbly at the end there, but you get the idea. I've sung 4 things and they're in time with each other because I had the backing track. Now what I'm going to do is just to go back to the beginning of the speech there, and I'm just going to edit out just slightly before the tune begins. So maybe something here, maybe. I don't need to click anymore because I've managed to line up all my parts. So I'm just going to get rid of all of those, which means that I've got a nice clean start.
Making
I could even cut a little bit more off that, but I'm not going to bother with that just for now. Now, on an iPad of this vintage, 2017, it can't play back 4 60-frame videos at once. That's not necessarily a problem because it's quite a short bit of music this, so it's easy to create photos, create videos that you can inspect afterwards. It's not ideal, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine, especially with the telltale waveforms and the pictures that you can see on the screen. You roughly know what you're going to get. Now I need to make all of these videos the same size. So if I just go into the bottom one here, I'm going to make the size a little bit smaller. In fact, no, I'm going to crop it first. Now the reason I'm going to crop it is that I don't want all the stuff around the outside. I'm going to crop to the left hand side here and the right hand side there, and at the bottom as well. So I've got a squarish head there. Now I'm just going to make the size a bit smaller as well. Let's try something like that. And now I'm going to go back to the main window, and I'm going to copy those attributes to the other videos. So copy, then I'm going to paste on the other part, paste on the other part, and when I paste on the last part, you will see, because the last part is the part that's being shown on the screen at the moment, you'll see that it goes smaller. There we go. Now I need to go back in and drag these parts round, revealing the other three. There we go. So sometimes, yeah, there we go. You have to sort of select the parts. Now I can make these so that they are a little bit less angular by actually putting the edge softness function on here under cropping in the mode here, which means that you can't really see the edges of the video. You just see four heads, a la the sort of the Queen Bohemian Rhapsody sort of thing. You just got four faded bits there, and then you can drag these things around to fit. Now when you play this back, it will not quite resolve the pictures because of the iPad, but you can just scroll through just to check everything's all right. And of course at the end I want to just do a little fade before I switch the camera off. Ideally I'd leave the camera a little bit, I'd leave a little bit of space at the end of a recording, much as you do with a sound recording, to make sure that you have got everything in place and that you've got a nice clean ending. So what I'm actually going to do is put a fade at the end of each of these. There we go. The reason I'm recording the video here on the iPad with another device is simply because it won't actually fully resolve the video when it's trying to video itself, doing its own video of its own videos. Okay, so at the beginning I'm going to put a little bit of a fade in as well there, just to cap things off. Now while I'm in LumaFusion, I can also edit or do a little bit of editing with the audio, but I want to actually do this in GarageBand. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick movie file of this, photos, let's just do a cheap version so that it plays back nice and quickly, 720p economy, just to check everything's there. It doesn't take very long to do this because it's only a short video. Now when I look at this, I'm just going to check that the four parts are not only in time with each other, which I think we've established already, but just to make sure that there's nothing untoward with the video. Of course you can do all of the sort of colorizations, you can do all these fantastic things with LumaFusion, but really just so that we can see, I'm just going to go into the photos, recents, and
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
It's rather wobbly at the end, but it's okay, it's all right. Now, in LumaFusion, you can, because I've recorded with a stereo mic with this Zoom IQ6, it's not ideal to record a vocal in stereo, but because you can get sort of phasing issues, and it can be a little bit hard to sort of decipher where things are coming from. But in LumaFusion, if you recorded something in stereo, you can pan it in LumaFusion, where you can't if it's in mono, which is the restriction here. So actually what I want really, if I've got my audio mixer, I want the tenor part, which was the tune, to be louder than everything else, because that's the tune. Mixing videos with multi-angles. And I want the other parts to back it up.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Okay, so that's slightly less unacceptable. I just had the bass part up a bit there as well. Now you can do some tone controls in iOS, in the LumaFusion, but I think the best thing for me to do here is actually to mute all the parts except for the bass part and actually do an audio export. So I'm going to put it in files. I'm going to make it a WAV file because I'd want to have that for working in GarageBand. It's just better for the processing of all the effects that you've got on GarageBand in order to actually do that, in order to process things properly. So I'm going to call it 4-part lowest. Well, actually, no. Let's try 4-part bass. There we go. And it's nice and quick with audio because it's much smaller memory than video. So I'm going to save that in GarageBand file transfer, 4-part bass. Replace. There we go. I think I did a practice run at this and I'm just replacing that. Then the third part, I'm going to call it tenor. Files. I'm going to call it WAV. And then 4-part tenor. GarageBand file transfer, replace. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the alto part. So once you've done all this and it's in GarageBand, you can really get to town with mixing and, of course, mastering if you use Final Touch as well, which is a fantastic app and very, very cheap. It's only £8, honestly, £8. It's very, very well spent money. So 4-part alto, there we go, and then I'm going to do the soprano part. Where are we? Audio only. Files. You get quicker at this after a while if you're doing lots and lots of things. Soprano. It's not really soprano, but it's kind of choral speak. Okay, so just do that. Save that. Okay. Now I can go into GarageBand. Now, because I've lined everything up in LumaFusion, it'll line up in GarageBand as well. So if I just wait for that to load, let's just get a new file and call it an audio recorder. I'm just going to pick that because I actually need something to enable me to import stuff. Now, up here on the loops, we've got a little number 4. It's a little bit bright at the top of the iPad there, but I'm going to just import my part. So I'm going to put soprano up the top here. I'm going to duplicate this track as well so that I can easily import stuff in. Duplicate, there we go. So on the second part in, I'm going to import 4-part alto. And then on this part, it'll be 4-part tenor. And then on the bottom part, 4-part bass. Now that will play back essentially as it did in LumaFusion.
Making videos with multi-angles.
But it's got reverb on it because I've actually selected a preset that has some effects on it. So if I go to effects up here, I can actually, there's some reverb here as well. If I just go into the microphone, it brings up that first little page, vocal hall. I'm actually going to take that away. I'm going to make the tone also in the middle here. I'm going to take the compression off for the moment. What I could have done was actually open something that, well, if you go to fun and clean, it actually does that for you. So I'm just going to go back to the main working space and actually just do that for the other parts as well. Tone, compression and vocal hall off, and then go back to the others and do that same thing. Bit laborious, but it means you're playing with GarageBand, and that is important because actually GarageBand doesn't come with a definitive instruction manual. It's got there's lots and lots of people online, myself included, sort of giving advice on how to use things, but actually getting into it is much better. So when I play back now, there won't be any reverb.
Making videos with multi-angles.
Now my voice is quite nasally. I've got that and I don't really like that. So I'm going to go into plugins and EQ and actually go to the track EQ and just sort of just mix down slightly in the middle. Bit of treble, and then I'm going to cut the very, very bottom bass off as well. You don't want that, and a microphone, even a little one like this, will pick up more bass than you really wanted. Now I'm going to just come out of that. I'm not going to cut and paste because they're 4 different vocal parts, so I'm actually going to sort of try a few things as I go. Obviously the top part, mind you, the bass part, I'm going to need actually more bass end because it's the bass, so perhaps I could do something like that. Of course, if you get stuck for EQs, you can always use the AU plugins as well. So visual EQ on the alto part, I'm just going to take the bass away there, and also on the soprano part, visual EQ, take the bass away there. Now you can cut and paste EQs, of course, and store them, but you can see the operation there. Now let's have a listen.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Now maybe I just want reverb on the main vocal line perhaps, because then it brings it out a bit further. And I'm also going to pan some of these parts. I'm going to pan the top 2 parts slightly left and right, so that there's a little bit of stereo-ness going on in addition to the reverb that's on my main line.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Now I've just brought the bass up of the bass part as well, just using the EQ on the main page.
Making videos with multi-angles.
Okay, that's starting to sound like something. Now I'm going to just go back to my main page there, my song 3. Okay, maybe what I'll do is, before I go any further, I'm just going to rename that and call it 4-part mix. Okay, click done on that. Now I want to share this. Now, ideally, I'm going to share it as a song. I'm going to share it as uncompressed as well. And I'm actually going to open this up. Let's have a look. I'm going to open in, well, I was going to let it export first. I'm going to open it in Final Touch. Now, Final Touch is this mastering program, which enables you to bring the whole level up and also to apply a bit of compression, limiting, etc. So, copy to Final Touch. Ooh, a bit of feedback there. Okay, now, with this then, I'm going to press it. You can see that the waveform at the top does have some good peaks in it, but I'd like the overall level to be just a little bit higher. So we have a series of options down the bottom here: pre-EQ, reverb, dynamics, stereo imaging, post-EQ, maximizer. Now, I'm not going to bother with the pre-EQ. I'm just going to go straight into the dynamics page, which is this one. Whatever page you select is shown in the main window. So let's just have a little listen to what's going on.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Now, at the moment, we have these compression thresholds. We've got the compression threshold and the ratio. Now, ratio says how much it's compressing. At the moment, it's 1.0 to 1, which means it's not doing anything. If I was to turn this up a bit, it would be rather different.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Now it's squashing stuff. Ideally, I'd set the ratio higher first and then set the threshold so it doesn't sort of clip everything off. See what happens with that. So let's press play.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
What it's done is it's created more of a blanket rather than having all those peaks and troughs. Now at the end, I can put a bit of post EQ. Let's say it's a little bit deficient in the mids. You can do something like that by just doing this and then widening it a little bit, maybe. We just do that, and then something like that. See what happens with that. Your ears are the judge.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Now, of course, you need to make sure that your particular bit is switched on as well, the particular unit, and that's on the left up here. So you could be playing with EQ going, oh, there's nothing happening. It's because of that. Now, let's have a little look at the maximizer. This is where you're setting your output levels, and you have an input, a threshold, and then the ceiling. Now, the ceiling I need to bring all the way up to 0 dB here. The input and the threshold determine the sort of limiting that we've got at the end, and you get an attenuation meter here which shows you basically what's going on.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Ugh, that's a little bit draconian, but you can hear that the whole thing has come up in level, but it's not allowing it to go over the 0 dB line, which indicates distortion.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
So that's what it sounds like at the moment. I'm not sure if it's distorting the input of my desk or not, but if I switch it off, you'll hear that it sounds rather different.
Making videos with multi-angles.
And again with it.
Making videos with multi-angles can be done all in iOS.
Now that EQ, the correction that I made just before the maximizer actually annoyed me a bit. Now you've got your the tune in the mastering program here. I need to send it back to LumaFusion, so I'm going to export it to something called Audio Share. Now this is an app that costs about £4 from the App Store, but it's really, really useful. 4-part mix for final. I'm going to call that final mix. So that's there. And now it's in this part, this here on the audio share. Here it is at the top, and I'm going to save it to files. Now I'm going to save it in LumaFusion. Let's have a look. User media. Just going to share it there. There we go. 4-part mix for final. Now I need to go back into LumaFusion. Now you might need to go to import media here because it obviously hasn't picked it up. LumaFusion 4-part mix for final. There we go. Now that appears in your list here, and then I'm just going to drag that down to my page here. Now you can see instantly from the telltale sign at the bottom that all the waveforms add up. So what I need to do now is to simply go, okay, well I'm going to just mute the 4 parts, leaving only the audio soundtrack. And now that is mixed and mastered. Then I'm going to put it onto my, I'm going to save it as a movie to photos, up the quality a bit if I'm putting it on social media or on YouTube. Just keep it as high as you can. Now you can go to YouTube directly from this app. You just do that and then it selects all the things for you. You can select the video quality and do all of that sort of stuff. So there it is. I'm just going to save it into photos actually. Standard. There we go. And now it's going to render that with the soundtrack that we have created via GarageBand and Final Touch. It means you have control over pretty much anything you want. And there it is, writing the movie, and it's finishing up. And that should all be done and dusted. So, just waiting for that to finish there. Oh, let's turn around a bit on the picture. Okay, so from the Photos app, there should be 2 versions now. There's this one.
Making videos with multi-angles.
And then there's this one.
Making videos with multi-angles.
Okay, I know which one I prefer. And there we are. From start to finish, a bit of production with audio and video using nothing but iOS and this. the Zoom IQ6. And there's a couple of other apps bundled in there as well, but really for not many pounds and pence, you can do everything you need.